Welcome to the Football Science Podcast, where we take a deep dive into the physiology, biomechanics and anatomy of the world of football. Hi all, and welcome back to the Football Science Podcast, where we take a deep dive into the biomechanics, physiology and anatomy of football. Where today we're talking about something that comes up quite a bit. It's the Messi Ronaldo chat, but slightly different. So I have my co-host Joe to lead us in.
Yeah, so we're gonna be looking at mainly the differences and not necessarily who is the better player, but we're gonna appreciate both players for what they are, and that is, two world-class footballers who have been top of the game for quite a while, almost a generation.
Yeah.
We're lucky to have not just one player, but two players who are both amazing, and we get to watch them, almost week in, week out. Not so much for some of them, but we get to appreciate both of them for what they are. So Shane, you can start.
Yeah, no, you're right. They're quite unique, and I think when they actually do ever retire, we'll probably miss them. It'll be a very sad day. So yeah, look, it's well documented and well talked about, Messi v Ronaldo. This isn't a chat about that. This is again going into some of the attributes that I think that I was really impressed, and my watching of football is probably ruined now because I see it completely different. I sometimes don't even watch it for the football. I watch it for other things. But one thing I observe when I watch Messi is obviously his dribbling ability. And the dribbling ability from a physical point of view is so unique. Now, I know there is the change of direction that's needed, the deceleration that's needed, everything else. But I've kind of picked up something else from him, and it's the cues. It's when he's dribbling, and where he fixates his eyes on it's slightly above the ball. It's not quite on the ball, but it's also trying to absorb the opposition and where they are in space, and it's all happening subconsciously and in milliseconds. And what he's doing, obviously, he's got amazing technical ability on the ball, but he's observing where the opposition is. And I don't know if you remember the Champions League when Boateng got, unfortunately fell on himself in the box when Messi manoeuvred the ball and twisted him up a little bit, and that was Champions League. That was an amazing level to do that in, and an amazing centre half to do that too. But he's always reading the opposition subconsciously. He knows how to manipulate. He knows when you're off balance. He knows which way to turn and create the biggest success. And that's come obviously through practice. But it's all happening subconsciously. It's like a reflex. It's like, when a keeper makes a shot where he's not even thought about it. So it's very subconscious. It's just like a reflex that he has where he's picking up on cues. And the other sport, I suppose, that ties into that was Pete Sampras. People used to talk about Pete Sampras and his serves. So when he used to serve, no one could read where he was going, which made his serves really difficult to defend, if you like, or return. And when if you read his book or you do any Pete Sampras research, you'll know that when he was learning as a young practitioner, tennis player, he was taught to throw the ball up, and at the last moment his coach would shout where he wanted the ball or the direction he wanted the ball in or whatever. So he had to react to the ball up in the air, which now means that he doesn't leave any cues to the person observing him is in which way he's going to go. So that's why it's such hard to read. If you refer back to Messi, he's picking up all these external cues. It's all subconscious. It's not conscious. He's not thinking about it, but he's picking up these things, and that's been acquired to him because he dribbled a lot as a young kid. You see loads of videos of him dribbling through older age groups. His head was down, but his eyes are up, sort of thing, and he's able to manipulate the ball in such a way that I think, and I'm not trying to explain exactly what he does, he's an absolute genius, but I'm just saying one of the observations that I have is his ability to pick up cues in the opposition. You often see him when he's dribbling, it's like how the hell has he got there? And this is all happening milliseconds, right? You have to watch these videos in slow-mo, try to see his eyes, try to see where the ball is, try to see what he's doing, with his body, how he manipulates the body. That's the other thing, how well he moves in and out of positions. But really the success of it is, and it isn't dribbling around cones, right? So it isn't all about what his movements are. It's his movements in relationship to the opposition is what's most appealing and most exciting when you watch him.
He's almost like like some of the great boxers that you can't quite work out what he's going to do next. You obviously know he's going in a certain direction, but how does he get to that movement and how he changes his body so quickly that like you said, like people can't read him, and that's why sometimes players just look a little bit foolish.
Yeah.
You know, it's easy for us to sit there and say, oh, well, why didn't you just do this? But he is literally one of the best dribblers of the ball that we've ever seen.
Yeah.
And he is able to do things that I don't think any other player has ever been able to do before. We've seen a new level. It is going to be a sad day when he eventually stops playing, because he seems to have done it for so long and no one's quite ever figured out how to play against him. I think Messi's a standout player as well, because, you know, for years he has been one of the best players in the world. And, you know, if you watch a team play him, they normally put 3 or 4 players on him. And that sometimes means that he takes quite a lot of knocks. He seems to get a lot of damage during games, which it's quite unfair when you think, you know, he is a great player and he could end up getting injured, but teams just don't know how to deal with him, because they just literally, they have to just take him out. But then it also leaves situations where we've seen like some great images of him where he's dribbling and he's got 5 or 6 players around him and they don't know what to do. It's almost like they're a little bit shook. And, you know, in a normal situation, 6 players around 1 player, there's only one outcome. But with Messi, you'd always have to have faith that he'll probably get through this, and he'll probably somehow manage to beat all 6 players and do it while looking really, really calm.
Yeah. No, it's so impressive, and you probably have to even analyze his stuff in slow motion to really like appreciate actually what actually happened there, because it's amazing. But you made another good point around he as I mentioned, he's reading cues off the opposition, which allows him to go which way and how quickly and stuff like that. But also, he's not giving away many cues as to what he's going to do next. Like some players you see in the, you know, almost, you read them like a book, you know exactly what they're going to do. And obviously that comes back to he's so many options on the table because of how he accelerates, how he changes direction, how he can manipulate the ball, his technical skill level, his awareness of space, everything like that is so unique to him. But one of the things that I just observe is just his ability to just get people twisted up and wound up, and it's because, you know, one, he reads them very well and they can't read him very well, so he's able to non-verbally manipulate them into a position where it's biomechanically efficient for him to move into. It's
a chess game that plays out physically, and sometimes you can wonder how does he do these things? What's going on with Messi that means he can do these things differently? Obviously, you're saying he makes people think he's going one way when he's going to do another, but from a physical perspective, what's different about him? Because if you look at him, he's not the tallest. He's one of those, you know, the shorter players. He doesn't look physically, you know, overpowering, but he somehow has his abilities and he can almost wring out every last bit of strength that he has to do the things that he does.
Yeah.
So what's going on? What's going on there in terms of his physical attributes?
Well, the first thing I'd say is like it's a genius at work. You know, it's almost hard to explain it all. You know, but if you were trying to explain it all, which we'll obviously try and do in these podcasts, is like he obviously has, you know, certain physical qualities. He's able to accelerate well. He's able to decelerate well. Decelerate on the dime. You know, stop instantly, but all with the ball. You know, with the ball under control, close to him. And I think the cues are a massive thing. I know I said that already, and that's really, really important. But also it's just like the sort of the mindset he has. He doesn't fear. He doesn't fear much. He takes it on. He'll take on any situation that he's in. He doesn't hold back in that regard. But yeah, someone like him is very, you can't really explain it too much. But I think, you know, if you just go back to his childhood and where he developed all these skills, is like probably playing, like we said before about young kids and like maybe not having the opportunity to develop some of the movement skills that they need. Like I'd imagine, and we've just know of what we hear in the media and stuff like that, but he played a lot of football at a young age, you know, with older players on the street, you know, in whatever environments. I know he went to Barcelona's academy when he was younger, but he had a lot of exposure to different, you know, challenging environments, right? And I remember being in Man City's academy, And we were talking about Phil Foden as a player, his development, and he was a biologically young player in an under 14s. And he was biologically maybe 2 years younger than his age group, and then 4 years younger than some of his counterparts, because they were 16 biologically. And the argument was, should we move him up or should we move him down? Because not up. Should we move him down in age group because he's getting kicked? Like you said about Messi, he's getting over muscled. He's getting he's just. People physically better than him are kind of pushing him off the ball, and he's not getting the success that he could get if he was in a younger age group. But because he was so talented technically and also psychologically, he had the robustness to just get up again and get on with it. It was almost like, he needs the challenge. He needs the environment to allow him to generate these skills. And you watch him play it again now, he always checks his shoulder. He's got a great awareness of space where he is. He manipulates the ball really well. He manipulates his body really well. And all these attributes that he learned, from a young age, was the environment that he had around him. And I think if he'd have been in a more successful environment with less challenge, he would have made it anyway, probably, who's to say. But I think that environment, and maybe Messi had a similar environment, maybe not as formal as academy, but he had an environment where there's a bit of struggle. He probably got kicked, he probably got out-muscled at times, but he found a way to overcome the environment.
I think what you're touching on there is what we've touched on in previous episodes, is that the individual as well, whatever he's been through from his progression through the academies at Barcelona and things like that, it's also core to who he is, that he's been able to get through those situations, like physically not the greatest, but has been able to get through playing with players who are much bigger than him, who have gonna maybe strong arm him and knock him over and kick him a little bit harder, and he's been able to get through it. It is amazing that he's managed to play as long as he had, because I feel like one of the players who does get kicked the most, he is one of them, because he's such a great player. Players don't know what to do, so they just kick him, because they're like, well, if I can injure him, he might not play the rest of the game. We might have a chance of actually beating this team. So yeah, I think it lends itself to the hardships that he's maybe faced throughout his professional career. But some players might have been through those and not got through it, because either external factors, but also like mentality wise, like.
Oh, massively.
To be a Messi or Ronaldo, you've just got to be an absolute,
When he was on that journey to success, maybe when he made his first debut, and even still now you see it, he's going to get kicked. People want to knock you off your peg, like people don't want to see you success, especially in an environment where they're trying to be as equally successful as you are. So yeah, to come through that takes a mental robustness or a mental resilience to just get kicked and get up again and not let it affect you, and just punish the opposition in a different way. And that's why it's so impressive. Like, we don't just look at him and think like, oh, just physically or just technically, it's everything together. The robustness of the years that he's done this for, it's like everything all together is the awe of Messi, and that's why.
Well, touching on mentality, on the other side of it, we've got Cristiano Ronaldo, who physically looks like an athlete, and I'm not saying Messi doesn't, but we've looked at Ronaldo, he is in peak physical form, like, and he clearly pays very much close attention to what he puts in his body. Like, there's stories of how he doesn't really drink, he doesn't really socialize, he spends a lot of time with family, he trains religiously, his diet is paramount to making sure that he can play up until a certain age. We look at players like Ronaldo and think, right, well, if you can have that physical ability, the skill set, you don't need it as much, because you've got that drive and determination to be a Ronaldo. So you can maybe be not the greatest footballer, but that drive is what makes you, an elite footballer, because you've just got this insane work rate. Stories of Ronaldo when he was at Manchester United the first time, and he would go out with weights on his ankles because he just wanted to get stronger. No one was asking him to do it. He was just doing it because he wanted to get fitter and stronger and make an impression among players who were maybe 5-6 years older than him. So that level of grit and determination is what makes them who they are as professionals.
Yeah, I heard even stories that Sporting Lisbon, they had to lock the gym because you had to keep him out of it. You know what I mean? So yeah, he's amazing, and that's why he's so good at what he does and been so for so long. He's got an amazing determination, which I mean, we can't even know the depths of his thoughts, you know, and what he wants to do, and he wants to break records and whatnot. You know, it's amazing to get to that level and sustain that level for so long. But the one thing I suppose I want to talk about Ronaldo, the most impressive physical attribute I think I see in him is his jumping capability, right?
It's insane.
And I've used him so often when I'm coaching athletes how to be able to jump. I think he's a great example, and not just because he jumps really high, and not just because he scored, I think it's 111 or even more now headers, you know, playing the game, which is incredible to score that many goals. But that many goals,
it's a crazy strat. Yeah, it's crazy.
Know, people don't score that many goals in their career. He scored them just with his head. You know, it's amazing. But if you watch him jump, and it's not every jump he has, and we alluded to it in another podcast around single leg and double leg jumping, right? If you watch his single leg jumps, the one against Sampdoria when he, you know, against he's playing for Juventus and he has that moment, it's unbelievable, right? But what's happening there, and you know, have to be a bit of a scientific geek about this now, but like what's happening there biomechanically is amazing, and it's exactly how you would coach or like to coach your athlete. So he's running, his momentum is moving him forward as he's obviously running towards the edge of the box, we'll say. He picks a point when he wants to jump up high, so his left foot, I think it is, or it doesn't really matter, but one foot decelerates momentum, so has to decelerate forward, horizontal force, horizontal momentum. So that break step is there for a reason, so it has to absorb all his, you know, his leg has got to decelerate all the action. Then in the other leg, he's generating this swing phase, so decelerate, then the plant is the drive the force upward, so he has to now convert the horizontal momentum to vertical momentum, and he does it in synergy with the other leg. The other swing leg, we'll say, swings up at a perfect, like almost 90-90 position, which means there's more momentum, more mass, more acceleration going upwards. So one decelerates the force going forward, now he's got to generate force going upwards, and he uses the other leg to get it high, and this is why he creates this hang time that people talk about, right? So it's the synergy of all this happening at once to create the highest point. So when he jumps, he gets higher than when he heads the ball, so he gets up early, and these mechanics of his foot patterns allow him to do it, and it's almost as he's coming down, then he makes his adjustment to his spine and his body, and then he makes contact on the ball, and even that's impressive in itself. And actually the landing he does on one leg is even more impressive in some ways. But it's those mechanics that I try and teach my footballers. When we talked about center halves, been having that ability to be able to jump off one leg, it's a real crucial thing to be able to have, and a really, really complicated skill to get. And that video of him doing that movement is like the perfect technique you could ever have.
It's a fine example, isn't it, of like how someone can do so many things so right in one moment to just pull off an unbelievable goal. And I know he scored, like you said, many headers, but that one that stands out is just an incredible. You see the image of it when it's, when he's literally right in the air. It doesn't make any sense because the players around him are so much further away than the ball. It's like, wow, how is he doing that? It's incredible.
It's amazing. And to put it all into, like, it's one thing to be able to jump that high, just jumping that high, but to be able to jump that high and to get to the end of a ball that's been crossed 60 yards away, judge the flight of it from that, that point, know when to jump, how to execute it, and then manipulate your body to make the contact on the ball at the right moment. That's why we're in awe at it, because there's so much going on. But I think if you're a footballer or if you're a coach and you look at that movement, think about why he got in. It's the perfect example of what you would coach. Like some players, when I'm coaching the single leg takeoff, the swing leg that I'm talking about swings in front of them, so it generates more momentum going forward, so they lose height. So that swing leg, the semantics of it, so where it goes and how he gets his hip into that position, is a crucial factor to him getting the true height that he needs to get in order to get over the defender, get high enough so he can't now jump anymore, and then he actually heads the ball on when he's coming down. It's amazing.
I think the whole debate around who is the best player, sometimes it's a bit unnecessary, because we're looking at two amazing players who do two different things as well, just because they play in similar parts of the field, and the stats I don't know where the stats even like, because I don't actually look at it. But you know, at one point one had more goals than the other one, caught them up, and this one's played more games and internationals and all that. But I think if they were playing in two different times, they would just be respected for who they are. But for some reason, we like to pit them against each other, which is really odd in my opinion. But you know, people are one side, some people are the other, which is, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, and this is what drives the media, and this is what everyone, like, the clickbait.
It's a good story.
It's a good story. But I couldn't agree with you more. I think these two need to be just taken in isolation a little bit and be, you know, respected for what they have done and achieved in the game. And to say one's better than the other probably is probably dismissive to one, you know. So, like, well, obviously people do it, and you know, in more like kind of lighter ways. But I think this podcast was more about just highlighting maybe stuff that isn't talked about enough. Certainly Ronaldo, people talk about, you know, Messi's dribbling quite a lot, but maybe not at the angle we spoke about today. And then certainly with Ronaldo's jumping, I never really hear his stats come out of his jumping, but it's amazing to think like how much headers he's won and how many goals he scored, but also more importantly, I suppose, to me and my coaching my athletes, is that he's paving the way. He's a role model to coach athletes how to jump.
I think there's a lot to be said about, you know, when certain sports people or individuals in life come along and they can achieve something that people maybe didn't think was possible. You know, there's always going to be great footballers, but did we ever think a footballer could jump as high as Ronaldo or scored as many goals as Ronaldo or Messi? You know, we didn't think that, but when they come along, it means that the next generation of players or individuals can aspire to achieve something that maybe some people just didn't even think was possible. So you know, they are important to have them across, you know, sports and all walks of life. So you've really added a layer of depth to both players' games, and maybe just added a bit more fuel for some people to debate on what side they're on. But we'll leave that with the audience.
Yeah, no, that's been great. It's good discussion. Like I said, we hopefully, you know, I think it's been outspoken about the Messi Ronaldo chat, but hopefully we've kind of tackle it from a different angle, and we got some.
There's no winners and losers on this one.
No. We're afraid to pick.
Yeah, we'll leave that argument for everyone else. But yeah, Shane, once again, been an amazing conversation. Just having this discussion with you and hearing your take on the two of the greatest players that have ever played football.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Enjoyed it, guys. I hope you liked it at home yourselves, and thanks for listening and watching. And if there's any comments or anything you want us to talk about, please feel free to reach out or put a comment below. Thank you.